So when we go on to talk about campsites, I'm sure we've all seen a range of levels of quality in the campsites that we have at events. They can be extremely challenging to manage if they're not properly resourced, and they can cause us lots of problems, especially overnight. Main hazards: public health, spread of disease, crime, fire, and a lack of services. I think ground conditions are another sort of key hazard in campsites. So if you've got campers at your event staying overnight on your site in a campsite, that you have to provide a range of services for them. And again, this is going to come back to the risk assessment. So what's your audience demographic? Whereabouts in the world are you? What's the expected behavior patterns of your audience? Some things that you're definitely going to need, though: security. You need security services for public safety to sort of promote public order on the campsite, and also to try and deter organised criminal gangs who will often target festival campsites. Often on the first night, they go from tent to tent, stealing valuables. So you can often be in a situation where you'll wake up in the morning, all your campers start to wake up in the morning, they realise that they've been robbed, they realise that there's been somebody in their tent while they've been asleep overnight, or they've woken up to somebody in the tent overnight, robbing them, taking their personal possessions. And there's a real feeling of violation that can come with that. So there needs to be some aftercare there as well. Teams that can provide that sort of aftercare for people who have had that experience, and other people that are having other difficulties on the campsite, is your welfare team. Welfare team is really important. They can talk to people that are having mental health difficulties, talk to people in crisis. They can help support people that have taken drugs or drunk too much and are having a difficult time with it. They will also work in partnership with your medical services, and medical services is another one of the operational services that you need to be able to provide for your campers on site. You need to make sure they're properly resourced, properly staffed, and they're open 24/7. Having an identifiable medical point in the campsite is really useful as well. So you make sure the service is located in the area that people are going to need it. Lighting is really important. We've talked a little bit about different lighting types. So there's lighting festoon, floodlights on structures, and lighting towers. Really useful way to get lighting around your site. Good lighting in your campsite is a hard balance to find. You need to make sure that you've got enough lighting so that people can walk around the campsite safely in terms of slips, trips and falls, but also to prevent attacks on vulnerable people, which are more common in really dark areas. You've got to balance that health and safety element with not making the campsite look like it's daylight, flooding it with light, and annoying all your campers who can't sleep because there's too much light there. Toilets, again, you can look to the Purple Guide for guidance on the number of toilets that you need to provide for the size of your audience. But you also want to be talking to suppliers, looking at data from historic events or similar events, and working out what the right toilet provision level is. We switch from a focus on urinals in the arenas to more portable units per person, just because of the nature of how people are going to use those toilet facilities. You need to provide showers. You need to provide potable drinking water that's signed so that people can find it, and you need to make sure that you've got a good waste management system. Keeping on top of that waste is really key to promoting hygiene, promoting health, and sort of make sure that people can look after themselves, keep themselves clean, cook, and prevent spread of diarrhea, vomiting, bugs, that kind of thing. You need to make sure that your campsite's got enough space for the audience. Again, the Purple Guide's a really good starting point for guidance. It makes useful suggestions about the kind of density that you can expect people to camp at in the campsite, what kind of tent occupancy levels you can expect from people. But it's hugely audience dependent. Young electronic dance music crowds will tend to camp very, very close together, lots of very small one-man tents, not much space taken up in those camping areas. Where you go to family-friendly events with big family groups camping, or maybe some older audience demographics, they're going to bring bigger tents, they're going to bring pagodas, they're going to spread out, they're going to claim a lot of space, and the density of tents in your campsite will be much less, which means that you need to provide a lot more space for the same number of people. You've got to make sure that there's emergency exits in campsites, and you need to make sure that vehicles are physically segregated from tents. Generally, a risk assessment is going to show that you want to make sure that vehicles can't drive through tents. There's been a few instances over the years of vehicles being driven dangerously through campsites, putting people at risk. Vehicles are a fire risk. There was a big fire in a car park at Boomtown a couple of years ago. So mixing of vehicles, tents where people are sleeping, is a risk that we will be better to eliminate or avoid. When you design your campsite, you need to make sure that you've carried out a fire risk assessment, and that fire risk assessment is going to show that you need to put in some fire lanes, some gaps in the campsite to prevent the spread of fire, and also to allow your fire team or emergency services to bring vehicles on site, travel safely through the campsite, and get to where they're needed.